Okay. Hey everybody, this is Wes Fox from Fox Outdoor Sports, and evidently this week it's my turn to do the video. So what we're going to do is kind of take you through a little bit of reloading, and I'm going to show you a couple of things with my. I'm going to reload a little bit from a 6.5 Creedmoor, but I'm also going to show you something. I had a little mishap. I use RCBS dies almost exclusively. I've got a Lee taper crimp in there for 9mm, but for some reason, I don't know how or why, and I have never had this happen to me before, but you can see where my decap and sizing die, something, I don't know what it was, but it's bent. It's bent bad, and basically it's useless. So, and on the inside of it, this goes inside the mouth of the case to resize that, and then it goes inside the die. So what I did, I ordered a new decapping pin, minus all of the other stuff up here. But when they sent it, they sent me the wrong thing, and I don't know how this happened, but it's a completely different diameter than the one it came in. So here's what I did, and this is just temporary because I'll order a new resizing die, but I can tell you right now it probably isn't going to be a RCBS. I'm thinking about getting a Hornady. So what I did, this is actually the bullet seating die, and this is the bullet seating stem, and it goes up in there and threads up in. I'm going to show you what you can do in a pinch. What I'm doing is I'm going to screw the decapping pin into my seating die, and I'm going to use my resizing die without the decapping pin in it, which is really no big deal. For example, sometimes if you do something, you have to pull a bullet, and you need to resize the case mouth or something. All you got to do is take the decapping pin out of this, and you resize the outside of the case mouth. It's not that big a deal. It's just frustrating because I've never known a company to have two different sizes. Now, one thing you have to keep in mind when we're using the seating die to decap, I did this on purpose. This is a ruined case. The reason I ruined that case is because on your resizing die, the way you adjust it is you run the ram of your press all the way to the end of its stroke, and then you screw the sizing die down to where it hits pretty firmly against the shell holder, and then you tighten it down. Now, if you do that with the seating die, that is what will happen, because you don't seat bullets by running it all the way down to the top of the shell holder. The way you do it, and I'm going to use this as a case that I deprimed and sized a little bit earlier. So here's my lube pad. You always want to lube your cases. Hit the mouth of the case, and then this has got just a dab of oil on it. Hit the inside. And what we're going to do is we're going to run this die until it touches the case mouth, just like if we were going to seat a bullet. Okay, there it's touching the case mouth. Now we're going to back it up one full turn, just like if we were seating a bullet. Right there. And then we'll tighten that down snug. Now the decapping pin needs to stick through the bottom of the die just about 3/16 of an inch, so that we know that not only is it going to knock the primer out, but also that the inside neck sizing part of the decapping pin goes all the way down through the neck. And just like it's supposed to. Nothing bad happens. And I'll show you, I've already got 50 rounds of Hornady brass deprimed, and they're cleaned, and the mouths are chamfered and everything. But Jared wanted to do this video, and I kind of wanted to do it too. So I've got this Winchester brass that I bought some factory ammunition here a while back. I typically don't do that, but one of my good friends wanted his boy to try the 6.5 Creedmoor, and I'm kind of hesitant to let other people shoot my reloaded ammunition. You know, heaven forbid anything go wrong, but it would make me feel really, really bad if it was to hurt. Something did go wrong and it would hurt one of my friends or something. So I'd usually roll them 5 at a time. Hit the inside with the little bit of lube again, and I'm gonna. Oh, looks like I need to go a little bit deeper. Didn't quite go deep enough. So we're gonna loosen that up. Oh, it was so close, it was unreal. Need to go a little bit deeper. That ought to do it. Like I said, I normally wouldn't do it this way, but that capping pin really made me mad. And not so much that it bent, but that it sent me the wrong one. There's went the primer, and you can see there where it's like that. Then we're going to switch over here. Now we're going to size the outside of the case mouth. There we go. Could have maybe put a little bit more lube on it. And then what I found out is after you do that, you need to go back to the decapping pin and hit the inside of it again. And I'll show you how good this actually works by measuring this case and the dimensions of it against a case that I did earlier. Before the decapping pin was all jacked up. So you can see here the outside of the case mouth, 0.289. This is the one we just did. 0.290. And that could very well be a difference in the thickness between Winchester brass and Hornady brass. If we go on the inside, we have 0.263 on the Winchester, 0.263 on the Hornady. So there's absolutely no difference in the size of the case mouths. If we come to the base of the casing, we have 0.470 on the Hornady, 0.470 on the Winchester. Up here we have 0.461 on the Winchester, 0.461 on the Hornady. So I'm not the least bit concerned that this is a different size than that by using this process. It's not ideal, but right now I'm just going to kind of go with it because it's what I have. So we'll go ahead and do these others real quick. So I'm not going to reload this brass tonight because it's got oil on it. You know, the lube from whenever you run them on the lube pad, you have to do that, or whenever you're moving the brass, and you will stick it in the die, and you got to send it off and get or unless you got a stuck case remover, you could do it yourself, but I don't have one. I just don't get the cases stuck.
Milo farted.
So that was just to show you about that. I've got 50 rounds of Hornady, and it's ready to go. But I will show you how I prep my brass. So I use this Lyman case trimmer.
Okay, hang on. Okay, start that sentence over.
I use this Lyman case prep center, but it's a little different the way I do it because this is actually a Lee case trimmer. And if you're familiar with those, which most people probably are that reload, basically you have this length gauge and you have a cutter head, and normally the cutter head has the little knurled piece on it that you spin it, and here's the shell holder, and it goes into that piece right there, and sometimes I'll put that on a drill. Well, as it turns out, on Amazon.com you can order this little cutter right here that has I think it's a 832 thread on it, and it's got that little set screw right there, and it goes right on there. And this is these are VLD deburring tools, the inside deburring tool, the outside deburring tool. This is this piece right here is actually set up for small primers, but I use that because some of my 9mm brass has a crimp on it, and that will cut the crimp out. But this right here just cleans up your primer pockets. So what you do, you put your case into the shell holder, turn on the machine, and you just run it right down on there. Hang on a second. Now granted, you don't get to pick how long you want your brass with this, but it does trim it to the minimum length according to Sammy specs. Hit it with the inside reamer, hit it with the outside deburring tool. You can see how dirty that primer pocket is. Put it up there and let it run on that for a second. Might not hurt to run it on that other tool. And I think I will. I'm gonna take this out and I'll show you the reason. If you look, I mean it's fairly clean, but look how uneven the bottom of that primer pocket is. So we're going to put it on this piece right here, and I'll show you the quick and easy way to screw these in. You just turn it on, put it up there, and it screws right in. There it is. So yeah, that's going to make it all better. Now we're talking. There. Now you can see how much cleaner that primer pocket is after we do that. So anyways, actually, and I don't normally do this until after I clean my brass. Some people call it cooking your brass. I call it cooking my brass. But it really isn't. We're not cooking anything. We're using a sonic cleaner with a little bit of solution, and sometimes I'll put just a little dab of Lemmy Shine in it, and I let the water, use distilled water, and I let that heat all the way up. And and then put it in there for 30 minutes and your brass comes out nice and clean. The oily residue is off of it. You don't have to worry about getting any of that on your primers or anything when you're priming. So I just did that right now just to kind of show you how I did it. And I'll show you what a good piece of brass will look like when you're through. Here's some Hornady, and this is one where I actually forgot to clean the primer pocket, so I'll do this real quick and you can kind of get an idea what it's going to look like and how much cleaner it will be. Almost. No matter what, you're always going to have a little bit of residue in there, and sometimes I'll tumble my brass, but not always. So there you go. You can see the before and after on what that looked like, and that just makes it so your primer goes in a little bit more uniformly and whatnot. Okay, so now for the time being, we're done with this. I'm not going to cook this brass until I get some more done. Now what we got to do though is we have to undo our depriming system here, because we were using the bullet seeder as basically the vessel or the holder for the decapping pin. And here in just a little bit we're going to need it to do the job that it was actually designed for. So what I'm going to do is pretty simple. I'm just going to pop it out of there. I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I'm not going to send it back, but maybe I can find an RCBS die that actually fits it. Now for the kind of tricky part, because this screws in from the inside for just a little bit anyways. So the thing about this is it screws in from the inside, so I had to just kind of get it started. And then this screwdriver will go in there far enough that I can turn it backwards until I get it to the point where now I can get my fingers on it, and I don't have any idea where this started out, so I'm going to run it all the way up. We're going to have to reset this die from the very beginning of where it was. See what makes me mad too? They didn't even send the nut for this. They just assumed the one I had was already the right size, and it isn't going to fit. And I'm sure I could just go to the hardware store and get a nut, but I don't know what's up with, never had any kind of problems at all with RCBS in 35 years. Now all of a sudden, and maybe I'm just overreacting, I don't know. Okay, so back to the old drawing board. The way you do this, you run a sized case up, run this die in until it touches the case mouth. What I do for reference on this, because we have to back it off one turn to make sure that we're not actually like hitting the case mouth when we seat our bullets. It's not for an AR platform. There's no reason to crimp these bullets or anything. If you're shooting in a bolt action platform, unless you just want to, and maybe it gets your standard deviation down or something, because sometimes it will. There's no reason to crimp bullets for a bolt action rifle unless you just want to. In a semi-automatic, it's not always a bad idea, but I don't know that it's 100% necessary, but it's a good safeguard against your bullets flying forward. So, now this die is set. Alrighty. The next step in the process. For a while I didn't like this hand priming tool because I don't think it's nearly as good as the older ones, and I have arthritis. But as it turns out, there were some burrs on the moving parts inside of it, so I took it apart, hit it with a little bit of 1000 grit wet and dry, and it's actually a much better system now. So the way it works, I don't remember if I got the large or the small in it. Must be the large. Okay. The way it works. You unscrew that comes out. Then you slide that out. Then we're going to need our shell holder. This is the reason I try to stick with RCBS on most things, is because I know that it will fit from one item to the other. You slide that back in there with your shell holder. This is what pushes your primer up and down. That's the plunger for it. Put that back through there, catch it, screw it back in so it stays. Now we're almost ready to prime. Milo must have given up. He's a sleepy boy. So now we need some large rifle primers. My preference is CCI, but to be honest with you, Winchester makes a fine rifle primer too. And normally, I'll show you how normally you can do this. It doesn't work very well with the Winchesters because the box is a little big. But I'm not gonna empty this out. But you would turn your primers over. Well, you put it like,
got a frame.
You put your primers like this. You put this on top of it, and then you turn it over, and your primers come out into it. Sometimes you got to flip a few over. Sometimes you don't. But we're just using one for what we're talking about. So I'm just going to set it on there. Then that goes on there like so. Closed, open, closed, open. So we'll close it. And then this goes into the feeder tube right there.
Out of frame.
And what'll happen is that whenever I open that, it lets that primer fall down inside of there. Then I can take a case, and it's awkward because I'm having to hold this so that you can see it in the camera. You don't want nothing pointing at your face when you're priming. You need to wear safety glasses and all that. But you just push that, and it'll push that primer right up in there, and you'll know when to stop because it won't go anymore. Take it out. And now we have a nice primed 6.5 millimeter case that's ready for powder and a bullet. So we'll just kind of leave the mess out here for the time being. Put our primers over here. Okay, next step is we need to get our powder measure set up and ready to go. And I keep all of my information written down in books. What I'm going to be loading for this one is a 129 grain Hornady interlock. Okay, this is one of my favorite bullets. It's an accurate bullet. It's good for killing deer. It'll kill coyotes. It'll kill deer. It's a 129 grain Hornady interlock. It's not a boat tail bullet. It's not what you'd call a target bullet. It's a hunting bullet. And it looks like that. It's got that soft tip on it. So we'll just get one out. That's all we're going to need for now. I keep everything that I reload, which isn't very much, I keep notes on it. And the powder that I like to use on these is Reloader 16. I'm not going to tell you how much of it I'm going to use, but I will tell you this, that I'm well under the maximum charge that you can load with Reloader 16 in this particular bullet, according to the Alliant website, because this is an Alliant powder. Okay, so my Reloader 16, I'm not gonna fill this hopper all the way up, because there's no reason to. All I'm going to do is load one round so you can see how to do it. Okay,
That'll work.
Alright, so we're calibrated. With a little bit of luck, it might throw the right charge, because I think this is what I was loading last. But I don't remember. Oops. Forgot to turn it on. Nope. Wrong one. Must have been loading 223s. So we need almost twice as much powder as what we just got. And there it is right there. That's exactly what I want. Now, here's my method of doing that. Primed case. I set it on my scale. Hit the tare. That's exactly how much powder I want right there. That is exactly how much powder I want. Okay, so like I said, I've never been accused of being smart too many times, because I totally forgot to take the shell holder out of the priming tool.
Are you about to use a different tool?
Nope. Okay. Now we're to the step, and I measure each and every load that I put into a case. I measure every one of them. I don't like do 5 and then check one, do 5 and check one. When I do it, I measure every single one of them. So now we have a charged and primed case. So I'll set the bullet on it. Here's our bullet seating die. This is going to be way off, and I know it. So I'm going to run that up in there. And I'll run that down. Okay, right there it's touching the bullet. I want to run it in a little bit deeper so that I can take it out without the bullet falling out, but not so deep that I have to pull it. So we've got to start on our deal there, on our bullet. Now, the other thing that I do is I don't load to what's called CAOL or COAL, cartridge overall length. I don't load to that. One of my best friends has the gauge for measuring chamber depth, so that you can measure cartridge base to ogive length, which is a much better way to measure things. Where'd I put that little black book? It's got to be laying in here somewhere, because that has the information that I need. There it is. So these in my rifle, the rifle that my son has now, that Jared has, it has, like I said, it has a little different depth in the chamber than this one. So I have to seat these bullets 20 thousandths deeper. And where I'm seating them is 3.190 cartridge base to lands. So you take your handy dandy Hornady gauge type thing here. And we'll zero it. We'll zero it. And I need 3.190. That puts me 20 thousandths off the lands. So it's going to be way off, I can tell you that much right now. But we're looking at 3.42. So I got to go about 130 thousandths of an inch, about an eighth of an inch deeper. .190 cartridge base to ogive. And the reason that we do that is because the overall length will vary, but the ogive will be within, usually spot on. If anything, it'll be less than a thousandths of an inch off. Less than a thousandths. We're talking tens of thousandths. And now we have a finished 6.5 Creedmoor cartridge. What we would do is we would do all this in steps. Typically when it comes to rifle cartridges, I like to only have enough loaded, like, you know, if I got 50 rounds, that's going to last me probably a year, because I'll shoot it a little bit. I hunt coyotes all year round. I don't use this too much for shooting prairie dogs, but it'll reach out and touch them. But it's a fun cartridge. It doesn't kick or anything hardly like that, and it's a good accurate cartridge. But back, you know, the way we do this is if I'm going to load 50 rounds, I'm going to size 50 rounds, and I'm going to clean 50 rounds, and I'm going to run 50 rounds through my case prep center. Then I'm going to, you know, 50 round, one round at a time. Or 50 rounds. I'm going to prime 50 rounds. Then I'm going to put them in my loading block. I will put the powder into it, put a bullet in it. Now it's done. Put the primer in, put the powder in it, put the bullet in it, seat it. Now it's done. So you want to do everything in steps. And the reason sometimes with rifles I only do 50 at a time is because this is a evening type thing for me when I'm, you know, just kind of need something to do. So I can sit down and I can do one step of 50 rounds in an evening. It might take me a week to reload 50 rounds, but I don't do it to do it in mass quantities. I do it because I enjoy it and it makes my rifles shoot better. We do have one step left. We got to make sure that the round will chamber, and not, you know, we're not too worried about function or whatever, because there's not a doubt in my mind that it'll go off. You can see the chamber is indeed empty. There's nothing in there, nothing like that. I'm going to go ahead and close the bolt so I can put it on safe. The rifle's on safe, trigger won't go off. So what I always do with my loads is I'll put it in the magazine, put it in there, and then I'll chamber around. Perfect. Works perfect. Out it comes. And then I'm going to check the cartridge base to ogive length one more time, just to make sure that the rifling lands are not pushing my bullet deeper or anything like that. And once again, you can see 3.190, exactly where we left off. So this one's ready to go. Over the course of the rest of the week and the weekend, I'll probably load 49 more. So anyway, that's the way I do that. I don't know if you're interested in the way I do it, or if you're not, but if you are, feel free to use it. If you do, you're using it at your own risk. We don't accept any responsibility for what you do that's outside of our control. But just like we don't blame other people if something happens to one of us. So I'm saying, if there's something you can use it, and if you don't want to, don't. But in the meantime, y'all be good.